Hi, I'm Michael Bourgeois, and you're watching Next Level Contractor podcast. We are here with Noah Davis for part two. Noah is he's an outstanding entrepreneur. He buys and sells companies for a profit. He starts companies, grows them to profit. He buys companies, grows them to profit, and keeps them. He is what we refer to as a serial entrepreneur. He has done all kinds of businesses all across the board. He's currently a partner in a general construction company. He is the president of One Exam Prep, which is a contractor's exam prep company, which is phenomenal. And he is gracing us with his presence once again. He was a phenomenal guest. He was a whirlwind of information last time, and we were very fortunate to have him again for some follow-up questions. So thank you very much, Noah. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for those kind words again.
And he's humble too, folks. He's a great guy. Uh, Noah, thanks for all that information you gave us on the previous interview. That was outstanding, and I know it helped a ton of people. We have some more questions that have come in, and if I know you're a busy guy, so our format is just to get right to it.
Sure,
If
let's
you don't mind, we'll just get right to it.
fire away.
All right, so these questions we sort of categorize them a little bit so that we can hone in the topic. They have to do with kind of running the business. So the first question that we want to ask is, uh, how does anyone manage cash flow and avoid running out of money when you're starting a company?
Right, right. That's a tough one. I think I touched on this in our last episode, but the a lot of reason the majority of reason the reason why companies fail so early on and even later on is not usually because of the company itself, but it's because of your own personal situation getting in the way of the company. So, especially when you're running your own business and you're either a sole proprietor, even as an LLC, or if you're, husband, wife, or, you got a partner, the needs of the partners come into play for the business. You feel stressed. You've got to pull money out of the business to pay yourself, right? So you're always thinking about that on every decision you make, and that certainly impacts the cash flow of the business. So, how do you navigate that and keep enough cash in the business that the business can run without putting your personal, situation into it? And the reality is that it is really, really probably I would say that's the most challenging thing in a business. Once you get past that, once you either have enough cash in the business to let the business run without your personal life getting in the way of it. When you had God forbid, a medical situation or something like that, and you have to take cash out from the business, it just hurts the business. So when you're starting out, you certainly want to be discipline is important. And so what you want to do is when you get an invoice, when you get bills that are paid, don't try not to rack up credit and debt and things like that, because that is the number two thing that's gonna hurt the business. So, if you can, you want to pay your bills in full. Try to operate on a COD level, which cash on demand. So if you think about it, when the healthiest thing a company can be is a company with no debt. That's, when you look at your balance sheet, which is, your balance sheet consists of how much cash you have in the bank, what inventory you have, any assets you might have, like your website or your customer list and things like that. But debt is going to be the thing that's going to really hurt that balance sheet. So if you can operate early on, as you get a job, you get paid on a job, pay all your invoices, pay your labor, pay everything on time. Be a person that is known for paying everything on time or even early. And I think that goes a long way early on when you're trying to build a reputation, with your labor, your employees, or your vendors. you know, as soon as that invoice comes in, no matter what it is, pay it from the proceeds of that job. Okay, that is, if you can create that kind of discipline and not rack up things on your credit card, not rack up things, that accumulate other responsibilities like interest, and things like that, you'll know you'll have satisfied the obligations of that job, and you're ready to move on to the next one. You can keep whatever is left. So, the discipline is, in my opinion, having at least two bank accounts. Bank account number one for operating expenses and things like that. And bank account number two is the money, is the proceeds, the profits you make that you expect to make on that job. So let's say, for example, it's a $10,000 job, and your total cost, including everything, is going to be $7,000. Well, what you might do is when you get that $10,000 check from the customer, keep $7,000 in your operating account, put $3,000 in your, whatever account you want to call that, your savings account or the owner account. Um, and creating some kind of discipline like that will go a long way. Now, I've, something contrary to what I'm discussing is something that I learned from a consultant early on when and I've been through these situations where, I've been through situations where I racked up too much credit card debt or took out loans and wasn't disciplined about my business. So I've been through it as well, and I've been through bad situations, and I've learned through that. And again, you want to try to be disciplined from the beginning. Once you deviate from that, it's very hard to go back. That's the reality. But at the same time, you do have your personal obligations. And one thing someone told me early on in my career that really, I was stressing out about paying my bills and then having enough money at the end of the day to pay myself. I think that's everybody, usually a business operates, you pay all your bills, and then whatever is left, you pay yourself the difference. But usually there's always things that come up for the business. Oh, we could put money into marketing, we could put money into, maybe we could take on another job, we could grow the business in some way. And so now there's less money for yourself, and it creates a burden, on your personal obligation. So someone told me, they said, pay yourself first. The first person you pay is yourself, which is really hard to comprehend when you've got employees and you've got other people, other obligations to the business, because you do have to pay those people. You have to meet your obligations, but there is a way to do it. Having two bank accounts, you can pay yourself first. When you get that check and you're supposed to operate on 30% margins, or that $10,000 job, you're supposed to be left with 3,000, move that 3,000 into that account and know that it's for you. Okay, and keep that $7,000 in the operating account to pay your bills, and know that pay yourself. So if you're planning on paying yourself, $2,500 a month or a week, whatever it is, pay yourself that as a salary. Like, actually get disciplined about that, so it takes away some of the personal burden. And know that, maybe you're gonna put on hold the growth or expansion, and you're gonna wait till there's enough proceeds for that. Because if you if you start sacrificing on your personal side, it creates stress.
I bet it does. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to everything you just said. That's a really good tip. Two separate bank accounts. That had I never that never occurred to me. Two
Yeah,
separate bank accounts, and so you reserve what you know is intended to pay yourself first. Um, what happens if you go over budget on the account that you have for the company?
well, that's why when you're paying yourself. So let's say let's say you typically expect a 30% margin on your jobs. First of all, every job you should get good at over time calculating what your margin should be, and you shouldn't
Right.
you shouldn't sacrifice. This is a really tough thing early on when you're really willing to take work in any capacity just to keep things going,
Just to penetrate the market, right?
just to penetrate the market and keep your people busy, right? You want to keep yourself busy. So that's hard. At some point, you've got to develop kind of like what your threshold's going to be for, I'm not going to do a job under a certain margin, because there stuff happens, right? We know stuff is going to happen. There's going to be a situation that comes up that you didn't expect, especially early on in your career. one thing for certain you should know in your early in your career is that stuff is going to happen that you did not expect because you're not seasoned enough yet as a business owner to expect the unexpected,
Mm.
right? You know, there should be you should have 10 to 15% of your cat of your savings cash as kind of that rainy day what could happen situation, and over time you'll get better at budgeting for that. But yeah, so if you're typically paying yourself, if you're typically bringing in $3,000 of profit, don't pay yourself out 3,000. Don't expect to be able to pay, to take all that cash. It'll just put more strain on it. And so you want to build a healthy salary for yourself. Don't overpay yourself early on. I do believe that you should pay yourself first, but don't expect the lifestyle right away. You are going to sacrifice early on as a business owner. You're gonna
So don't suck every penny out of that personal account. You pay yourself a portion of that as your salary to pay yourself first, but the remainder is there just in case something goes sideways with the other account.
Yeah, and
Okay. A
you
rainy
can
day fund.
you can even get more disciplined and have a third account, your own, you can have, but I think two accounts is usually fine. The next step would be to start to separate credit cards. So if you have a credit card, and a lot of people, a lot of people are tracking expenses in different ways. Your software can track expenses, but it's also about having two physical different cards. So knowing that this card I use for you know, for the day-to-day operations. And this card I use for the, just the general office, whatever stuff. Having actual two physical things reinforces in your head what you can do and what you can't do. And so even though we have software that's great nowadays and QuickBooks can integrate and decide what you separate out, you still having something physically different helps you maintain that.
That is some more good advice. Yeah, I could see how the physical difference it takes some of the discipline out of it, honestly. It doesn't take quite as much discipline if it's two completely separate things. It's easier to digest, I guess, and to keep those two things separate.
Right, right.
Cool. Thank you, Noah. That was a lot of info. And golly, you clearly you just have so much knowledge in your head. I'm glad you're letting us try to extract it here. So next question is, what are the best tools for managing construction projects?
So, I think talking about just the basics here, the first thing is it comes down to the basics of even just managing the supplies and things like that. So, having a software that is a management software for your projects, a project management software in construction, I believe is important even early on. You want to keep everything, all your notes and all your permits and all your everything related to that job in that, and essentially that bucket for that customer. And project management softwares, that's what they're good for. And so you do have certain softwares that specialize in different trades. They have certain roofing ones, you have certain, general contractor ones. So there are certain softwares that are better than others. So that's number one. I do think you want to line up your accounting software as well early on. Get yourself disciplined about everything flowing into the right place. You don't want to, at the end of 6 months or at the end of the year, well, you're gonna now have to go all figure it out. I think starting out disciplined when you have a lot less craziness going on is going to be the best thing to do. Uh, including, payroll, right? So you're gonna have employees, you're gonna have, set up a payroll service, set up something. These things are not as expensive as you think they are. And trust me, managing filing quarterly tax returns for employer stuff is definitely one of the hardest things to do. I mean, it's just that service that you're going to pay monthly is just, it's well worth it. Even if you only have a few employees, it's just, you don't want that stuff piling up. You don't want to be behind. The one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to be behind on taxes. You don't, taxes, especially
That's for sure.
payroll taxes, because, that affects you. If you are whether you're in a corporation, an LLC, whatever it is, whoever is the person responsible for payroll, it's going to fall on you. If the company doesn't pay the payroll taxes, they're coming after you personally, and it will go through anything. Bank, whatever it is, you don't want to be in that situation of not paying your payroll taxes, your sales taxes, whatever taxes, because that will create incredible stress to get behind on that. So that's why having a payroll company does that for you, and it takes the money out. You don't have to, send a big check at the end of the month or the end of the quarter to the government. It just does it all for you every payroll. And I'm a big believer in doing workers' comp as you go, or doing these services as you go, pay as you go, because I like bite-sized payments. That's why I'm a big believer in weekly payroll, which number one is employees love it because they want to get paid as often as possible. And number two is the employer. The scariest thing is if you're doing a monthly payroll, having that huge burden build up on you and all that cash sitting in the account, knowing that it's going to go out, is just staring you in the face, being like, it's in, you're looking at it and saying, what can I do with all that cash? Well, are you really disciplined enough to keep that cash there and know that it's got to be there for payroll? A lot of early uh, business owners are not, and something comes up, emergency comes up, and I got to use it for only one day. It's only going to be one day, and I'll put it back. Well, then when they don't put it back, something always happens. Guaranteed in life, in business, you're going to run into a situation where you need the cash, and there's always a good excuse for it. But that's why don't put yourself in that situation. Don't allow yourself to be ever put in that situation where there's just you have a huge obligation and you're just letting it sit there, and you come up with some excuse as to what you can use that money for. Pay your vendors quickly, pay your employees quickly, on a more frequent basis. It will take away stress, in my opinion, when even as you grow. It's just something. Yeah, it's something that I think would be a good thing for a new business owner.
Yeah, bite-sized payments, keeping it as small as you can at a time.
Right.
There's plenty of wisdom in that. As far as paying your taxes goes too, something you didn't mention. Sounds like you probably never had this problem, but I know a guy was a low voltage contractor. Well, actually, there's a couple of guys, partners, burglar and fire alarms.
Mhm.
I don't know how much they owed or how long they had gone without paying, but uh, people with guns showed up to shut their operation down because they
Mhm.
owed back taxes.
Mhm.
So they had a call center that they were operating to make sales, which is where all their admin stuff was going on and all their dispatch was. So they just had an office space, and I guess I don't know who shows up. Is it the ATF that the IRS sends out? I have no idea.
Uh,
But they
That's
showed
got to
up
be pretty
with
bad if they show up.
they showed up
That's pretty bad.
with
Yeah.
not just pistols. They showed up with AR-15s drawn and scared everybody really bad just from not paying taxes. It must have been a ton of taxes. I really
Well,
don't know, but
it doesn't have to be a ton of taxes. It could be, well, you're ignoring correspondence, and just you're not responding to things. That's why keeping a service that is on top of you, don't expect to become an expert in that. Get someone to be on top of you for that. It's like hiring a personal assistant to do that work. It's so inexpensive. But just so you know, like, you can get in trouble for things you didn't realize, sales tax, right? I mean, I've been in a situation where I wasn't getting correspondence on something, and I, you know, found out about this big sales tax burden, and you have to deal with it, and it comes out of the blue. They didn't, not because of your fault. Something happens, and you can get thrown in jail for that. I mean, you can really, and when you encounter these situations, if you do encounter them, don't try to go it alone. Actually find someone who's a specialist. There's always a specialist who handles, if you're owe a lot of money to taxes or things like that, actually hire somebody. Usually they can work things out, help you work things out, and whatever it is. And as luck, I believe that if you're responding and responsive and not hiding yourself, then the government would rather collect the money than not collect the money. So that's just my thought is use professionals, and their value is worthwhile.
Right. Taxes, tax stuff, legal stuff.
Yeah.
Use pros.
But
Uh,
start early, get yourself, if you're not good at bookkeeping, get yourself a bookkeeper, right? They're so inexpensive. Y- things are not going to get missed that way. You're meaning because a typical bookkeeper is going to give you a report once a month, a financial report once a month, and keep everything reconciled, meaning they're going to go through your bank statements and your credit card statements and actually match everything up. So if they are alerted to something, they can let you know that there's an issue, that something's not right. And so rather than waiting until the end of the year to find out about that, you can find out on a monthly basis for such a small amount of money. So there are little services like that, like payroll is just another good example of having that, you know, do the work for you.
Noah, last week you mentioned that your company handles some bookkeeping services and some accounting services. Is this the kind of stuff that you're talking about that your company can handle?
Yeah, we do that. We do, we find a lot of contractors early on, even, up until a few $1 million in revenue are, they're just blind. They're growing early on, they're growing, they just don't have time for that. And a lot will the what we find a lot is we encounter contractors who come to us, especially now, and they're like, we didn't do anything for 2024. Here's everything. And normally they just hand it all to their CPA, right? So first of all, the CPA is going to charge them a boatload of money because you're paying your CPA hours, right? So the CPA bills a couple $100 an hour. A bookkeeper bills much less time, in the tens of, much less time, dollars per hour. So it's always our goal is to deliver a full package on using like a software like QuickBooks. So the CPA just has to log in, pull the information, and they're just going to charge you a few $100 for your taxes, not, three, four, $5,000 because they got to put all your books together. So not only are they doing that, but again, it's like I brought up a business owner early on in the first couple of years, you need to be on top of your cash. Okay, a lot of people say, I'm just not good with cash, I'm not good with numbers. Well, sorry, you don't have a choice. You're a business owner. Your responsibility is your cash. It's the same thing that people say,
Right.
I'm a salesperson. I'm not good at sales. Well, guess what? You are a salesperson. If you're a business owner, you're a salesperson. Every time you go to a restaurant, um, you know, you meet someone, you're handing out your card, you're telling somebody what you do. I mean, you are a salesperson. You are wearing all your hats. You don't have a choice. You have to know your numbers. You have to know your cash, and what's going in and out. Don't make an excuse to say I'm not good at it. Either then hire someone to be good at it, get a software. That's how you avoid getting into these problems.
This episode of Next Level Contractor is sponsored by One Exam Prep, America's leading contractor test prep school. With over 1,000 licensing programs available nationwide, One Exam Prep makes getting your contractor's license easier than ever. Join over 100,000 contractors who have been assisted by One Exam Prep. Get started today by visiting www.oneexamprep.com or calling 1-877-775-9400. That makes sense. Makes total sense. I'll just, this is a plug for Noah's company here. He does bookkeeping services. He does accounting services. So if you need something like that, if you're listening to this, you're a brand new contractor, even if you've been a contractor for years, and you just want a second opinion about your books, or if you've been doing your books yourself all this time and you think it's time for a pro to handle it because you're pulling your hair out, whatever. Noah's company's website, which will take you to all the services that they provide, is oneexamprep.com. The purpose of our podcast here is to take somebody from brand new contractor to their first $1 million, right? That sort of journey, that first year or two, where they can be successful. And I mean, it's one thing to make $1 million. It's something else if you spent 1.5 to get there, right?
Mm.
That's something totally different. So it's about being successful and not becoming a statistic. That's what this podcast is about. So Noah has a company that can take someone who has just education and trade experience and coach them through passing the exams, and then help them with the application process, which can be daunting. And then after the application is submitted and the certifications or licenses are approved, then Noah has a company that can help you acquire insurance and also handle the bookkeeping and accounting. So it's worth a look. Just go to oneexamprep.com. There'll be a link below that we'll set up. And he's a great guy, and I've vetted the company myself, and they're totally on the level, and it's worth a look. Anyways, Noah, next question. How how does a person hire and retain skilled workers in a competitive market?
That's a good question. First of all, thanks for the plug. Um, skilled workers. So, hiring is it's a tough one, but I think I'll talk about first retaining. So just once you're in the business and you realize how difficult it is, especially in construction, whether it be the actual skilled labor or sales, you will find how hard it is to find people that are reliable, show up, are honest, don't flake on you, don't run to a competitor for an extra dollar an hour. You will realize very quickly what you're in for. So what my recommendation is, once you do find them, you need to work on retaining them. And how do you retain them? It's not all about money. So, um, first it's developing skills on how to create qualities that you're looking for when you're looking to hire them. What are the key qualities? Some of the qualities that I look at are, number one, I want them to be humble. I want that person to not be somebody who is thinks they're so arrogant and are going to actually, they do need to listen to you. You are going to be their boss, and you want them to respect you and respect. And if they don't respect you, they're not going to respect the client or their colleagues or anybody who's working with them. So being humble is an important trait. Number two, whether they're, especially if they're in sales or project management, you do want them to be hungry. So I like the keyword hungry. Are what's in interviews, I'll always ask, what do you do in your personal life? Outside of work, what do you enjoy? And you want to hear things that first of all, you want to hear they have a balanced life, in general. But are they hungry? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? If they're, you can hear a lot about their answers. So, um, you want somebody who wants to make a better life for themselves. It's nothing wrong with that. If somebody says, I want to make a lot of money, that's great. You want somebody who, especially in sales, you want that person to have that hunger, because you have that hunger and you expect them to have hunger, right? If somebody says, well, if my whole goal is, I'm really just don't, I just want to get through work, and, I have, and all, they have a very, very active hobby life, are they the right fit for you? If usually a salesperson's got to work above and beyond. They got to work more than the 9 to 5 if they really want to be successful. Are they gonna, when there's a call to go do an inspection, on a weekend, and there's an opportunity for them to make a couple $1,000 because they can make that deal, are they gonna, are they hungry enough to want to do that? You're gonna need that. You're gonna need hunger from your initial employees. Humble, hungry, honesty. I think that's the other age, and you can't really tell that until, once they're once they're working for you, but having honest employees will go a long way. I believe that your goal should always be to, um, promote from within. That's really, what you'll find is that if you have good employees, they will bring in, other people they know that they trust, right? So I've found that some of our best employees in companies I've been involved with have been from referrals from within. And it's great when you can keep hiring that way because you know that everybody doesn't want to screw it up. You have a lot of employees who just they want to and they value you as the owner because you're doing more for them than just money. Sometimes it's not just about giving them a bonus. It's the little things. Number one, it's appreciation. Appreciate them, show you appreciate them, um, talk about it with them, little get-togethers. I've met some contractors who, um, it's a normal thing. They take everybody out to lunch once a week, and it's like a family. Like if you're working for that owner, and somebody comes to you and is offering you a couple dollars more an hour, is it really worth going to an environment that may not be as fun and friendly and family like? So you got to develop something in your company beyond just grinding it. You've got to develop something that people feel like they're doing it for a cause, that it's not only about the
I
money.
think they call that a culture, right? Company
Correct.
culture.
Company culture, and that's as you get larger, that's where you really got to think about that. But even early on, you want to you training is so exhausting. Think about training new employees, new salespeople. It takes your time away from going out and selling and doing what you know how to do. So a lot of you know I think early on, once you figure it out, writing your own training program will go a long way as you bring on new people. But and I've kind of just talked about looking for people, but there's a lot of places to find them, but the best place you can find is from within. If you can find good people, they will know family members, they will know people in their circles who are good, solid, honest people like them.
So at what point did you know your company culture or what you wanted it to be? And is your company culture the same across all your companies, or do you have different cultures for your different companies?
I think ideally you want similar cultures, but unfortunately, that is, as you grow bigger, that is, top of mind for myself. First of all, I spend a lot of time reading other, I believe in constantly reading a lot of other business books to see what other people are doing, how are people doing things right or wrong. And that's how I've learned. And I fully admit I don't have, our companies don't have the perfect culture. I'm very jealous of companies that have incredible culture because I know the production they get out of their employees by having great culture. And nowadays it's even harder with a lot of remote workers. Now in construction, you're most likely localized, so that's helpful. Keeping people in an office, I think, is important. Um, but really investing in yourself. So if I were to, there are a lot of great books out there on creating company culture and things like that. But there are so if you're running a roofing company, you can go and find people who are talking about company culture for a roofing company or an HVAC or whatever it is. Get specific to your industry, find people who are talking about it and you come up with little ideas. It's just the little things, just you know, having little company get-togethers, sponsoring lunch on Fridays, just being different, and being also, again, being appreciative to your staff and talking about it, I think is goes a long way.
Thank you for that. The next question, you actually touched on it uh, on the previous visit that we had,
Mhm.
but it was just so good. It's worth a follow up, and it's worth hearing again, even if it's the same information. And that's how can a person market their business on a tight budget?
right? So first of all, you don't need early on, you don't need a marketing budget. You don't need to spend dollars to get started. There are a lot of free ways to get yourself out there. And number one is making sure you're visible, right? Are you listed on Google? And don't just don't just do it and don't just list yourself on Google and then hope that it works out. Actually go test it. Meaning, have your friends test it, go test it on your mobile, test it. Like, are you showing up in because sometimes Google will suspend your listing and you don't realize it. You just forget about it and you never were listed. You're wasting all this effort and you're not listed. So get yourself listed on Google. There's a verification process. I think I talked about in the past about getting some reviews up there. There's nothing wrong with your employees writing a review saying how great it is to work for this owner or this company. Get them to put a review up there, a 5-star review. Get some couple of reviews. When you post reviews yourself or when you build your Google profile, put in images of your business, of your trucks, of your office, of your people. And there's certain people like that. The more visuals, the better. Put a video if you can. Like use even again, you don't have to get professionally done. Go around with your camera, with your iPhone or whatever you're using, and go around the office. This is our office. This is film turn it to film yourself. Get those visuals up. That would be, most important. I mentioned also in the past that once you become a contractor, you automatically get listed on many different websites, Angie's List or, a lot of the BBB, they all post free profiles for you because they're pulling it from a database from the state. The state makes it publicly available who is a licensed contractor. And that's why it's so easy to go search for a contractor at the state level. So the first step is realize that if you're a licensed contractor, you're out there in many places. Do a search on Google, find all the places that you are listed, and actually go in and claim the profile. So actually say you're the owner, claim the profile, go through the process of building your profile. You can upload your images so that wherever people find you, there's a professional looking presence. So that's free, it doesn't cost you anything. It will take you a little bit of time. And of course, there are services that can do it for you, um, but that's
Do you
step.
offer that too?
Yeah, we do that. We do that.
Really?
Yeah, we
I was
do.
just,
Yeah,
it was
no,
almost a joke. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
no,
cool that
we
you,
know there's a lot more to it than just building the profiles. There's keeping them populated, so we haven't talked about social media, but it's the same thing. You need to be on social media. If you do not have your Facebook, Instagram, at a minimum, you're not keeping it up with the time. I mean, one thing people do when they're looking at contractors, they're looking for prior projects, right? Let me see prior work. And where's the easiest place to post prior work? It's like Facebook or Instagram. Keeping a page, a company page, not a personal page, but a company page is just posting your work there nonstop. It doesn't matter how many followers you have, because when someone finds you, they're going to go there and if they see a lot of great looking work, it's you have a better shot. So keeping that updated, it's the reason why there are services like ours out there is because a lot of contractors are busy. They're not thinking about posting. You have to post consistently. It's
mm.
nowadays you're competing with people, with contractors who know that they have to post consistently. So if you don't, you're being left behind. And it's really nowadays you can automate a lot. We can
So their posts will overwhelm yours in the algorithms and you'll
yeah,
just
and
never
again, if
show up.
you think about this, if you're somebody who's looking at a contractor and see the last post was, November 2021, are these guys in business anymore? Right? So, and that's what happens a lot. You see a lot of outdated stuff, and you see comments on social media that isn't responded to. If somebody posts a comment on your social media, respond to it, no matter what. I mean, now sometimes you can get negative posts and you can hide those things. that's okay as well. But at least respond, because people see that if you're responding, that you're active, right? You're um, you're involved, and respond quickly, right? So you need methods to be able to monitor that. That's why there are services, because it gets all become a lot. If you're busy and you've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you're using, people are responding all over the place. But that's how you find that's free business. That doesn't cost you money to advertise there. You can pay to advertise there, and we that's a whole different topic. But to get started, just have yourself visible. You don't need a complicated website. You can have a very basic website. Um, and we can talk about kind of the website and what the key things you need to have on that. But if you're getting started and you're on a tight budget and you don't have any budget, likely, right? Then at least be visible. That's what I would say: visible and stay current. And every time somebody posts a review, first of all, be on top of. If you have a limited amount of customers early on, you should personally call them up and ask them and say, look, it really means a difference to me. We're a small business. It really mean a lot if you post a review. Actually text them the link to review. There are links on Facebook, Google, that all you have to do is you literally send them the text. And if they open it up, it's there for them to leave the review right there and then and post their 5 stars. Don't tell them to go leave a review, and don't give them when you tell them to leave a review, put it in their face, put it in their hands, so that all they have to do is just make 2 clicks and they're there, right? So I recommend having those links ready and available to send there. So when your sales rep is out completing the job, or your project manager, that should be part of your process. Okay, I really appreciate it. Here's, number one, we can talk about this, but a video testimonial is even stronger, and having that process set up, because people love those. Those are much more powerful than that 5 star Google review. So having a video testimonial, getting into that, where your project manager's like, would you mind leaving a quick review for us? It means so much to us. You just hold up the camera and you start recording 30 seconds, and they ask you how, tell me about the job and so forth and so on. So those are all free things you can do, and they will go a long way. You don't need to spend money to do those things, and you'll be, I'd say, at least 50 ahead by 50% of the people who are out there.
So you think you can get 50% ahead just from capitalizing on all the free advertising and marketing resources that are out there? I bet you're right. I bet most people have not even thought about that. I'm sure there's people right now watching this thinking that they had to have some big marketing budget in order to be competitive, and don't even have all that stuff that you just mentioned that's free.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how ahead of the game you can be by just doing the basics and staying consistent. Build yourself a schedule. Every week I'm going to check to make sure that my listing's still up there, that my phone number still ring, the basics, like, if you have a certain phone number on Google, check it to make sure that it's ringing to you, right? If you have a business phone number, is your phone number still ringing? I can't tell you how many times if you have lots of phone numbers, because you're tracking or whatever, you start adding phone numbers over time, you'd be surprised when phone numbers stop working and you just
Mm,
sit up there and nobody checks on it. And it could go for months, and you have
yikes.
how many leads? I've encountered this so many times, and that's why I'm very regimented about having our team check almost our websites on at least a monthly basis, filling out a test form. See, am I getting the email? Am I getting the messages that are coming through? Or, what am I getting? Is the phone ringing to me or toward the office? Just the basics. Those basics will save you a lot of money over time.
Wow. Good info. So this one's kind of, I guess this would be let's say the marketing works, right? So that's where the next question comes into play is, how do you win bids and get more clients, right? The
Um,
phone rang,
right,
and
right.
now you actually have to go figure out how to get the business.
So this is definitely can be a whole, I think, a whole topic in and of itself. But there's science behind uh, how, about closing a deal. But if you look, just one thing, if you can take one thing, is the more touches, the better. Okay, so a touch is a text, an email, a phone call, a visit in person, right? Those are the different kinds of touches. You want, when the lead comes in, respond to it within 5 minutes. Like, don't give them a chance. And 5 minutes is maybe too long. 2 minutes if you can. Um, so you want that, if they call you, you pick up the phone and number one, your people are friendly, but right after the phone call, email, text, thank you for, calling us. We're gonna, even if you have to work on a bid, get a text message out.
I know
And
there's a lot of robo dialers out there. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure I'm clearly understanding, uh, and for everybody else as well. So you're talking about when a lead comes in, someone makes an inquiry, a call comes in, a message comes in, however your website's set up to receive information. You have an actual person make contact, or do you have like an automatic dialer and a recording? I mean, how do you do it?
so you're again, if we're talking to, I don't, if we're talking to businesses that are fairly small, the early stage, you should be, you know, in my opinion, you should be, if you have a salesperson that works 9 to 5. So first of all, let them be the ones to receive the calls. But if after hours, that call should be coming to your cell phone. Don't miss the call, just let it go to voice. First of all, voicemail is the absolute worst thing, in my opinion, that a business can have. I don't believe in a business that a business should have voicemail. If you call our company, you will never get voicemail. You will always get someone 24/7 because we use a messaging center at night and that they're still answering. Thank you for calling such and such. It
So no
sounds
matter what, there's a human that they're going to speak with when they call your
Mhm.
company.
And that for a small business, that could be $100 a month. But if I'm the business owner and I'm early on, I want it ringing to me. And and I want to quickly move that to text if you can.
Mm.
Move it to text, move it to email, most likely text, but more touches the better. Because if they feel like they're engaging with you, they're not going to go get a quote somewhere else. And if they spend a long time with you, talking about their situation or their job, they're less likely to call a competitor and waste that amount of time with them. So in terms of winning bids, there is a whole science and method to, really, you really want to at a minimum establish 4 to 5 touches before, up until the estimate. So if it takes you to, if you're going to go out and send somebody to do an estimate on their project, it's, phone call came in, that's touch number one. Or if a lead came in, then you call them back, touch one. Touch two is text. Thank you for, we appreciate you. We're working on your estimate or whatever, or we scheduled an appointment with so and so to come out there. That's touch number two. Day of estimate. Um, the person doing the estimate is texting the customer saying, I'm on my way to see you. I should expect to see you at, here's a little tip. If your scheduled appointment's at 9 a.m., I'm scheduled to arrive at 8:57. Think about how what that sends to the customer. They now see that you're punctual and you're specific about timing, right? So that's unusual. That's a little bit different. So be a little bit unusual about that. So now you've texted them. Now then when you get there, you're greeting them. When the estimate is done, or when, I encourage video, do a video of it and say, shoot the person a video, say, I did I'm working on your estimate, I should have that to you tomorrow. That's 5 touches before you even gave them an estimate. Most companies will not do that. So, so if I can give one piece of advice, it's more touches equals more wins.
That's great advice. That truly is. Noah, this might be all the time we have for today. I know you're a busy guy, and you promised us a certain amount of time, and you delivered, we really appreciate it. I hopefully we can get you back again. I'll try not to abuse it, but your information is so good. You practice what you preach. You have several businesses across several different industries, one of them being in construction. So you're just such a credible source of information, and you have a ton of it. And thank you so much for being willing to share.
Thank
Uh,
you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure, Michael.
all right. Well, so to everybody that is watching or listening, please be sure to like and subscribe if you felt like you're getting some good information out of this podcast. We appreciate every single viewer, every single listener. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we'll get someone. Well, maybe Noah will answer it, or maybe the next guest. I don't know, but we will get to every single question that comes in. So if you have a question, just ask it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.